There's a time in the stillness of the night when the world is quiet and the soul begins to stir. Between the hours of 3 a.m. and 5 a.m., something happens. You wake up, eyes open, and for reasons you can't explain, sleep has left you. Some will call it coincidence, some will say it's just restlessness. But deep down, you know it's more than that. The heart senses what the mind cannot understand. That hour is sacred. It is not an interruption. It is an invitation. Maybe you wake up burdened, thoughts racing, worries creeping in like a shadow over your spirit. You wonder about the future, about your family, about the trials you face. You feel alone in that darkness, but let me tell you something. You are not alone. That moment is not an accident. It is a divine appointment. There is a reason your spirit stirs at that hour. The one who created the heavens and the earth, the one who set the stars in place, is calling you. It is in the quiet hours that he speaks the loudest. What should you do when you wake in the middle of the night? First, listen. Before you reach for your phone, before you let your mind wander into worry, be still. There is a whisper in the silence, a voice calling your name. It is not the noise of the world, not the distractions of the day, but a gentle prompting from above. Then pray. Speak from the heart. If you are anxious, lay it down. If you are troubled, bring it before the one who holds the answers. Do not be afraid to pour out your soul, for he hears, he knows, and he understands. And then give thanks. Even in the darkness there is light. Even in the struggle there is grace. Even in uncertainty there is a purpose. Gratitude unlocks peace, and peace will guard your heart. If you wake up in those hours, do not see it as a burden. See it as a blessing. You were not awakened by chance. You were awakened by purpose. So rise, seek, listen, because when he calls, it is always for something greater than you can imagine. There are moments in life when things happen that we cannot explain. You find yourself waking up in the middle of the night, and the clock always seems to show the same time, somewhere between 3 a.m. and 5 a.m. You turn over, hoping to drift back to sleep, but something feels different. Your heart is awake, even if your body is tired. Thoughts begin to stir, questions arise, and a feeling you can't quite describe settles in. Some may dismiss it as mere restlessness, but deep inside you know there is something more to it. Waking up at this hour is not random. It is not just a pattern of sleep or an effect of stress. It is a moment where the noise of the world fades and something greater calls your name. The distractions of the day are gone, and in that silence there is an invitation. An invitation to listen, to reflect, to pray, and to seek. There is a reason your soul stirs at this hour. Throughout history, the early morning hours have been sacred. The quiet before the dawn has always been a time when the divine moves, when messages are given, and when hearts are prepared. It is the hour when the world is still, yet the spirit is awake. You may not fully understand why you are awake at that moment, but you are not meant to go back to sleep unchanged. Perhaps you wake up feeling anxious, with worries pressing in on your mind. Concerns about your family, your future, your past, or things beyond your control begin to rise. In the darkness, fears can seem louder and doubts can feel heavier. But what if this moment is not meant for fear, but for faith? What if the reason you are awake is not to be troubled, but to be transformed? When you wake in these hours, it is not to carry your burdens alone, but to lay them down. It is an opportunity to shift your focus from the weight of your worries to the presence of something greater than yourself. The stillness of the night is not empty, it is filled with purpose. It is a sacred moment, a divine pause in time where heaven reaches down and reminds you that you are not alone. Many people have experienced this waking in the early hours. And for those who have paid attention, it has often been a turning point in their lives. Some have received clarity in those moments, answers to questions they had been asking for years. Others have found comfort in their struggles, a peace that cannot be explained but only felt. And still others have been given direction, a sense of purpose that they had not seen before. If you wake up at this hour, do not ignore it. Do not dismiss it as just another restless night. Instead, see it as a calling. There is something stirring within you that is meant to be acknowledged. Maybe there is something you need to hear, something you need to release, or something you need to embrace. Whatever it is, do not rush past it. Take a moment to be still. Listen, reflect, pray. Allow yourself to step into the silence and hear what is being spoken to your heart. You may not understand it fully in the moment, but trust that you are awake for a reason. There are no accidents when it comes to the stirring of the soul. The next time you find yourself waking up in the early hours of the morning, do not see it as an interruption. See it as an invitation. See it as a moment where heaven is speaking, where your heart is being prepared for something greater. You were awakened for a purpose. Will you answer the call? When you wake up in the stillness of the night, your first instinct may be to reach for your phone, check the time, or let your mind race with thoughts of the day ahead. The world teaches us to fill every moment with noise, to seek distraction, to drown out the silence with activity. But what if, instead of reacting with busyness, you simply remained still? What if, instead of immediately searching for answers, you allowed yourself to rest in the quiet? There is a reason you are awake, and there is power in your first response. In that moment, when your eyes open and the world is asleep, something greater is stirring. You may not immediately understand why, but there is something sacred about the silence. It is in these moments that clarity is found, not through effort, but through stillness. The greatest insights do not come when we are hurried, anxious, or overwhelmed, but when we are quiet enough to listen. The noise of the day often drowns out the deeper messages meant for our hearts. But the early morning hours strip away the distractions and invite us to a place of peace. Stillness is not passive. It is powerful. It is not about doing nothing, but about being fully present. It is about recognizing that in the silence there is something waiting to be heard. When you wake up at this hour, there may be thoughts that try to pull you away, worries about the future, regrets about the past, or the urge to fill the moment with meaningless distractions. But if you can resist the temptation to react and instead embrace the stillness, you will find that something greater begins to unfold. In stillness, the mind settles. The weight of the day begins to lift. Clarity replaces confusion, and peace replaces anxiety. The answers you have been searching for may not come in the way you expect, but they come when you are willing to be still and listen. Many people spend their days searching for direction, for meaning, for purpose, but rarely do they take the time to simply stop and be present. Waking up in these early hours is an opportunity, a chance to pause, to reflect, and to realign. There is something profound about the early morning stillness. It is not filled with the demands of the day or the noise of the world. It is a space where the heart can breathe, where the soul can listen, and where the presence of something greater can be felt. In this stillness, fears lose their grip, anxieties fade, and a sense of peace begins to take root. It is not a moment to rush through, but a moment to embrace. For those who allow themselves to sit in the quiet, there is often a shift that takes place. A burden they did not realize they were carrying is lifted. A thought they needed to hear comes to mind. A deep sense of reassurance begins to fill their heart. This is why stillness must be the first response. Before the mind fills with worry, before the distractions set in, before anything else takes over, simply be still. Stillness is not just about quieting the body, it is about quieting the soul. It is about creating space to receive what is meant for you in that moment. It is about surrendering the need to control and trusting that there is a reason for the awakening. It is in this place of surrender that transformation happens. The worries that once seemed so heavy begin to fade. The fears that once seemed so overwhelming lose their power. What once felt confusing starts to make sense. The next time you wake up in the early morning hours, resist the urge to immediately act. Instead, let stillness be your first response. Sit in the silence. Allow your heart to settle. Listen for the whisper that is waiting to be heard. There is something profound in that moment. Something that cannot be found in the noise of the day, but only in the stillness of the night. When you embrace the quiet, you will find that it is not empty. It is filled with exactly what your soul needs. In the stillness of the night, when the world is quiet and distractions fade, there is a presence that cannot be ignored. You may wake up unexpectedly, feeling a stirring deep within, as if something or someone is calling you. It is in these moments of silence that God speaks the loudest. Not in the noise, not in the chaos, but in the quiet places, where the heart is open and the soul is ready to listen. Too often, people expect to hear God in dramatic ways, through thunderous signs or undeniable miracles. But throughout history, he has chosen to reveal himself in the stillness. When Elijah sought God, he did not find him in the wind, the earthquake, or the fire. He found him in a gentle whisper. That whisper still speaks today, but it can only be heard by those who are willing to be silent, to pause, to listen. When you wake in the early hours of the morning, it is not an accident. You may think it is just your body restless from the worries of the day, but what if it is something more? What if the reason you cannot sleep is because your soul is being called to something deeper? In the silence, there is an invitation to draw near, to listen, to seek what has been waiting for you all along. The world is filled with noise. From the moment you wake up to the moment you close your eyes at night, there are voices, distractions, demands pulling you in different directions. It is easy to miss the voice of God when life is so loud. But in the quiet hours, when the rest of the world sleeps, there is nothing standing in the way. It is in this silence that your heart can finally hear what it has been longing for. When God calls, it is never without purpose. Perhaps he is waking you to pray, to seek his presence, to find peace in the midst of uncertainty. Perhaps he is calling you to lay down burdens you were never meant to carry. Maybe there is something he has been trying to tell you, something that you could not hear in the busyness of the day. The silence is not empty. It is full of his presence. In that sacred moment, you are not alone. You are being invited into communion, into rest, into something greater than yourself. But to receive what he is offering, you must be willing to listen, not with your ears, but with your heart. Many times people resist these moments. They turn on the television, scroll through their phones, try to force themselves back to sleep. But deep down, they know there is something more happening. They know they are being drawn into something beyond their understanding. The question is, will they respond? Throughout history, some of the greatest moments of transformation have come in the quiet hours. It is in the silence that wisdom is given, direction is revealed, and peace is restored. Those who choose to lean into these moments rather than run from them often find that they are forever changed. There is a reason you wake up at this hour. It is not just restlessness. It is not just coincidence. It is a call to listen, to pray, to receive what is being spoken to your heart. God does not speak aimlessly. He speaks with purpose. And if you are awake in the silence, it is because he is reaching out to you. So the next time you find yourself awake when the rest of the world is asleep, do not rush to fill the silence. Do not push it aside as just another restless night. Instead, embrace it. Lean into it. Listen. Because in that silence, God is calling and He is waiting for you to answer. When you wake in the middle of the night with thoughts swirling and worries pressing in, there is one thing that can bring peace in the midst of uncertainty: prayer. It is not just a ritual or a last resort. It is the most powerful response to the stirring of your soul. In that quiet hour when you feel restless or burdened, prayer is not just an option, it is the answer. Too often, people wake up in the darkness and allow their thoughts to spiral. They think about the past, the future, the things they cannot control. Anxiety creeps in and fear takes hold. But what if instead of trying to fight these thoughts on your own, you turn to prayer? What if instead of letting your mind wander into worry, you directed it toward the one who holds all things in His hands? Prayer shifts the focus. It takes your eyes off your problems and places them on the one who is greater than every struggle you face. Prayer is not about having the right words or following a formula. It is about coming as you are, honest, open, vulnerable. It is about speaking from the depths of your heart, laying down your burdens and trusting that you are being heard. In those early hours when you feel alone, prayer reminds you that you are never truly alone. There is someone who sees you, knows you, and cares about every detail of your life. The beauty of prayer is that it does not require anything but a willing heart. You do not need perfect words, you just need sincerity. Some of the most powerful prayers are the simplest ones. Help me, I need you, give me peace. When you wake in the night, unsure of why, these small prayers can open the door to something greater. In prayer, there is release. The burdens you carry are no longer yours alone. The weight of worry, stress, and uncertainty is placed into hands far more capable than yours. When you speak your fears, your struggles, and your questions in prayer, you are not just saying words into the air, you are handing them over to the one who can do something about them. There is peace in surrender, and prayer is the path to that surrender. Many times people feel like their prayers are unheard. They wonder if they are speaking to an empty sky, if their words make any difference. But the truth is, every prayer matters. Every cry of the heart is heard. Even when you do not see immediate answers, prayer is working in ways beyond your understanding. Sometimes the answer comes in a whisper of peace, in the lifting of anxiety, in the strength to keep going. Other times, the answer comes later, in ways you never expected. But no prayer is ever wasted. Prayer is not just about asking for things. It is about connection. It is about deepening your relationship with the one who created you, the one who knows you better than you know yourself. In those quiet moments before dawn, prayer is an opportunity to realign your heart, to listen as much as you speak, to find comfort in the presence of something greater than yourself. When you wake up at night, you may not always understand why. But instead of filling the silence with worry, fill it with prayer. Instead of allowing fear to take hold, allow faith to rise. Prayer is the answer to every restless night, every anxious thought, every uncertainty. It is the bridge between your struggles and the peace you are searching for. It does not mean that every problem will instantly disappear, but it does mean that you do not have to face them alone. There is power in prayer. There is healing in prayer. There is peace in prayer. So when you find yourself awake, when your heart is heavy and your mind is restless, do not waste the moment. Pray. Pour out your heart. Trust that you are heard, because in that moment, prayer is not just something you do. It is the answer you have been looking for. When you wake in the stillness of the night, it is easy for your mind to drift toward worries, regrets, or the uncertainties of tomorrow. Thoughts creep in, reminding you of things undone, problems unresolved, and fears that seem magnified in the darkness. The weight of life can press down, making it difficult to find rest. But in that moment, when anxiety seeks to take hold, there is a powerful key that can shift everything: gratitude. Gratitude is not just a feeling, it is a choice. It is the decision to focus not on what is lacking, but on what has been given. It is the practice of recognizing that even in the middle of difficulties, there are blessings to be found. When you wake up in the early hours of the morning, instead of letting worry take over, you can choose to turn your heart toward thankfulness. And in doing so, something remarkable happens. Peace begins to take root. Peace is not found in the absence of problems, but in the presence of gratitude. Life will always have challenges, struggles, and unknowns, but gratitude shifts the perspective. It reminds you that despite the hardships, there is still good. The breath in your lungs, the roof over your head, the people who love you, the moments of beauty scattered throughout each day, these are all gifts. When you choose to focus on them, the things that once seemed overwhelming begin to lose their power. There is something deeply transformative about giving thanks in the quiet moments of the night. When the world is asleep and you are left alone with your thoughts, it is easy to feel isolated or burdened. But gratitude reminds you that you are not alone. It reminds you that there is something greater at work, that there are blessings even in the middle of difficulties, and that each new day is an opportunity for renewal. Some people believe they must wait until they feel thankful before they can express gratitude. But the truth is, gratitude often comes first as an act of faith. You may not always feel thankful, but when you begin to speak words of gratitude, when you begin to list the things you are grateful for, your heart begins to follow. Gratitude is a practice, a discipline, a way of shifting your focus from what is wrong to what is right. And in that shift, peace enters. Anxiety and gratitude cannot exist in the same space. When you fill your mind with thankfulness, there is less room for fear. When you remind yourself of the things that have already been given, the things you once worried about begin to seem smaller. It does not mean that struggles disappear, but it means they no longer control you. Gratitude brings a calm assurance that even in the midst of difficulties, there is still goodness to be found. Each morning that you wake, whether it is in the early hours before dawn or as the sun rises, you have a choice. You can let your mind dwell on all that is missing, all that is uncertain, all that is difficult, or you can choose to give thanks. You can choose to count your blessings, to name them one by one, to remind yourself that you are cared for, provided for, and loved. And in that simple act, peace begins to settle in your heart. When you wake in the middle of the night, take a moment to be still and reflect on what you are grateful for. Speak it aloud if you must. Whisper it in the silence. Write it down if it helps. But let gratitude be your response. Let thankfulness fill the space where fear once lived. Let it remind you that no matter what you face, there is always something to be thankful for. And as gratitude rises, peace will follow. It always does. Waking up in the stillness of the night, long before the world stirs, is not without meaning. It is easy to dismiss it as restlessness, as a disruption to your sleep, or as the result of a busy mind unable to find peace. But what if it is something more? What if there is purpose in the awakening? There is a reason your eyes open when they do. You may not understand it immediately, but something deeper is happening. In the silence, when distractions fade and the noise of the world is hushed, there is an opportunity to hear what you might otherwise miss. These moments, though unexpected, are not accidental. They are invitations, calls to pay attention, to listen, to seek, and to respond. Throughout history, many have experienced this kind of awakening, and for those who have embraced it rather than resisted it, transformation has followed. It is in these quiet hours that clarity is given, that the heart is stirred, and that direction is revealed. Some of the greatest revelations come not in the middle of the day when everything is loud and demanding, but in the quiet moments when the soul is most receptive. If you wake at this hour, it may be because there is something you need to hear. Perhaps there is an answer you've been searching for, a decision you have been struggling with, or a burden you have been carrying for too long. In the darkness, when all is still, there is space to listen. The worries that cloud your mind during the day can settle, and in that stillness, truth can emerge. Sometimes, the awakening is not just about hearing, but about releasing. The weight of life can be heavy, and often, without realizing it, you carry burdens that are not yours to bear alone. Waking in the middle of the night can be an opportunity to lay them down, to surrender the things that have been pressing on your heart, to find peace in letting go. There is power in acknowledging that you do not have to hold everything together on your own. For some, these early hours are a call to action, a call to pray, to reflect, to prepare for something greater. They are moments where the heart is nudged toward a deeper purpose, where ideas are born, where direction is given. Those who have answered this call, who have leaned into the awakening rather than ignored it, have often found themselves stepping into something they never expected. Purpose does not always reveal itself instantly. Sometimes it is a quiet whisper, a gentle stirring that does not yet make sense. But trust that if you are waking in these hours, there is a reason. There is something unfolding, something waiting to be discovered. The question is not whether there is purpose in the awakening. The question is whether you will embrace it. The next time you find yourself awake when the rest of the world is asleep, resist the urge to dismiss it. Instead, pause. Be still. Ask yourself what this moment is trying to reveal. Pay attention to the thoughts that arise, to the feelings that surface, to the quiet voice within. Because in that awakening, there is something meant just for you. Waking up in the middle of the night can often bring uncertainty. The quiet darkness has a way of amplifying thoughts, making worries seem bigger and fears more overwhelming. In these moments, it is easy to let anxiety take control, to let your mind spiral into doubt, or to be consumed by the unknown. But there is another way to respond, one that brings peace instead of panic, clarity instead of confusion, and strength instead of weakness. That way is faith. Faith is a choice, a decision to trust, even when you do not fully understand. It is easy to have faith when everything is going well, when there are no obstacles, when life is moving forward as planned. But true faith is revealed in the moments when fear tries to take hold. It is in the early hours of the morning, when you wake with uncertainty pressing in, that you must decide, will you respond with fear or will you respond with faith? Fear thrives in the unknown. It whispers lies, magnifies worries, and keeps you focused on what could go wrong. It makes you believe that you are alone, that your problems are too big, that the future is uncertain. But faith speaks a different truth. Faith reminds you that you are not alone, that there is a plan even when you cannot see it, that no challenge is bigger than the strength that is within you. Fear tells you to panic. Faith tells you to trust. Fear tells you to run. Faith tells you to stand firm. The moments when you wake unexpectedly are not without purpose. Sometimes they come as reminders to pray, to surrender, to release the things that have been weighing you down. Other times they come as tests, opportunities to strengthen your faith, to choose trust over doubt, to lean into what is greater than yourself. The choice is always there, fear or faith. One drains you, one keeps you stuck, the other moves you forward. Fear often disguises itself as logic, as realism, as preparation for the worst. But faith is not ignorance. It is a deeper understanding that even when things are uncertain, you are not without hope. Faith does not deny that challenges exist. It simply refuses to let those challenges define the future. Faith sees beyond the immediate, beyond the struggle, beyond the doubt, and recognizes that there is always something greater at work. Fear will always try to creep in, but it does not have to control you. The next time you wake in the early hours, take a deep breath and remind yourself that fear has no power over you. Speak words of faith, even if you do not feel them yet. Replace worry with gratitude. Replace doubt with trust. Replace fear with the assurance that no matter what you face, you are never alone. Faith does not always bring instant answers, but it always brings peace. It is not about having everything figured out. It is about knowing that you do not have to. Faith allows you to rest, to let go, to move forward with confidence, even when the path is unclear. When fear knocks, answer with faith. When worry rises, meet it with trust. When doubt tries to take hold, remind yourself that you are guided, protected, and never without hope. You will wake up again in the night, and when you do, the choice will be before you once more. Let it be faith that fills your heart, not fear. Let it be trust that steadies you, not anxiety. Let it be confidence that carries you, not worry. Because faith is always the answer. And when you choose it, fear loses its power.